organization in the education, health, and human services sectors? Do you need grant funding for your organization? Or do you need help developing programs to help you raise money for your nonprofit organization? At Vibrant Funding, our mission is to connect our nonprofit partners in the education, health, and human services sectors to the financial resources required to achieve their mission. We support nonprofit organizations based in and operating in the United States and Africa. We offer the following services to new and established organizations: program development, donor engagement and retention, grants research and writing. Contact us at www.vibrant-funding.com or email us at info@vibrant-funding.com. Call us at 404-751-6802 to learn more about our services and how we can help you to have an impact on the world. Vibrant Funding, connecting donors and nonprofits.
Hello and welcome to INSAKA Talk Show. My name is Priska van der Vestes Chira. I am one of the co-hosts at INSAKA Talk Show. INSAKA is a talk show where no topic is off limit. We talk, discuss every single thing. We uplift, highlight, motivate, and encourage our community. Before we go any further, let me introduce my co-host. Ladies, welcome to INSAKA Talk Show. Hi, ladies. Welcome back to the studio. How are you?
Good.
You look amazing.
You're glowing.
How's New Jersey?
New Jersey, it's cold. It's
is?
cold. We had snow over the weekend, so it's a little chilly. It's a little cold, actually. Not just cold.
Nelly, how's Texas? Because you guys never get cold.
That's a lie.
It's cold this
Actually,
year?
I saw a meme. Today, and it said, "We have a problem in Texas. We need help because we don't know what to put on." You know, the weather is always changing. Today is hot. It's cold. We've had 3 seasons in one day sometimes. So.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, our weather is very unpredictable.
How's Chicago? You look amazing. What is that ensemble that you have on? I love it.
This is a chitange. I love chitange materials, which is really what we call our African print materials in Zambia. And this is one of the dresses that I designed when I was recently in Zambia. So,
oh, that's nice. That's nice. And chitange is what we usually wear, right?
Yes, typically a chitange is what when you come of age, when you reach puberty as a girl in Zambia, they will give you your grandmother or an auntie, Vanasenge, will give you a chitange and say, hey, you should wear this around the house as a sign of respect for your dad and, other elders around the house. So you typically wrap it around your waist like a, what do you call it? A kimono?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those that do not know what a chitange is.
Or like a sarong wrap.
But you wrap around to cover, like, if you're wearing a short dress, something short, when the elders around, the sign of respect, like you said.
Yeah, and it also actually serves as an apron. If you're cooking, you put on a chitenge so your nice clothes don't get dirty because
Yeah.
chitenge materials can easily wash off, right?
Yes, Irene.
Yes.
Hello, welcome to INSAKA Talk Show.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good. It's really cold over here.
You look great.
Oh, thank you. I don't know what I did today.
So, ladies,
Yeah,
we
you're
have
going.
a guest today, but before we talk about our special guest, or before we introduce our special guest today, we have a topic courtesy of Winnie.
Oh, really?
Yes, courtesy of Winnie. The topic was picked by Winnie. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what you would like to discuss tonight?
I'm fiance.
Go ahead. We'll translate for you.
So actually, the topic for today is just for us women, because my goal of choosing this topic, I don't want my girl child to grow and think this is what it's supposed to be. It's about relationships, whether the time of the age when they start dating, maybe they start at 12. I don't know how old they're supposed to be dating until when you grow up. So when they're younger, it's like they see what us grown-up people go through. So when you get married or when you're dating, when you know you're being in an abusive relationship, when do you get out? Do you stay there because it's comfortable? Do you stay there because it's providing for you? And then, okay, that's different because you're single. When you get married and then you're being abusive, sometimes abusive comes in a different way. There's emotional abuse, there's physical abuse, there's abuse in any kind of way.
Right.
So when do you know or realize when to get out? And then it becomes complicated when you have children. Do you leave it? Are you going to leave for your kids or are you going to leave for your parents? Because again, when you say, Mom, because by the pocket Instagram. So how can we are secondly in Zambia you get married as long as you have to go back to your husband. How can we change that scenery? How can we make it better for a future generation of young women? Not only that, most of the time it's women who go through this stuff. Men, we will talk about that's another day for another topic, but let's talk about us women. When do you get out? When do you know that you're being in a abusive relationship?
Let me just jump in here.
22 hours.
I feel like when they batubika munganda, right? We're doing a kitchen party. Kitchen party, that's when they tell you at that point, I feel like they should be adding of what is enough. Enough to you could be different from enough for me. Enough is ngabakuma, enough is ngabakutamja. What is your enough? They should be teaching us that. Ngabatu ingisham kitchen party, but it's ambitious. For me, I feel like that. And then number 2, what is an appropriate date? What is an appropriate age to date? What age would you allow your child to date?
I think for me,
if I chip in on that, I think how I look at this is that our community is very judgmental.
Right.
So a lot of people stay in relationships because they're afraid their friends are going to say they've mamona ya cha afirwe chupo. You know? So most people stay in that marriage, whether abusive or unhappy, because they want to show their friends that everything is okay. Yes. And like keeping up with the Joneses, like that, what they say here in America is what exactly is going on in our community. You find that paranga vale land kashana, and then Umwale bragging about relationship. It could be nice. She could be right about what she's saying about our relationship. In an relationship,
but then at what point do you still get out? You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm trying to say. So it's a personal thing. I think we need to learn that don't envy a book by its cover.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to decide on your own what is enough for you. I think enough should be the children. You look at the children and you don't want the children to go through what you're going through. So if you stay, it becomes a pattern. When they're growing up into a relationship, they're going to say, and abuse is on both sides of the table.
Yeah.
Men are abused too.
Exactly.
That's not women. So we have to look at it on both sides.
Right.
That's my
Yeah.
take.
My take on it is, I think when it comes to defining what abuse is and what's enough, there are two things. I think one of them being if a partner is being physically abusive to you, if they beat you up, if they they hurt you in any kind of way physically, that should be taught. That should be enough for any human being, to leave. Okay, because just I don't know if you guys have seen in on social media, a lady that was killed by her husband and stuffed in a suitcase in Zambia. I think I just saw that today, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in Lundazi, so the neighbors say they could see the signs. He was kind of withdrawn and not very social kind of person, and he murdered her and put her in a suitcase and used to sleep in the same room with her body until like there were so many flies that the landlord had to call the police and say, can you go see what's happening in there? And when he heard that the police were coming, that's when he took off. But I say this to say, if somebody is abusive, male or female, physically, somebody puts their hands on you, that's a no-no. Like seriously, that's a no-no. Emotional abuse, on the other hand, is a little bit hard to put a name to it, to say this is it, right? But one of the things that I can say about emotional abuse is language. If a partner is going to call you derogatory names in front of children and other people, that's a no-no for me. I'm not going to take that. So
what about cheating?
Yeah,
that's emotional abuse. Not just I mentioned that yet. People can call you names, and this what happened to these abusers. They always come out very nice. They'll lavish you, buy you good stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, honey, I did something wrong yesterday. I should not say that. These are flowers. These are Dasha Cabana. And like, oh, my husband was just going through some stuff. And then again, you stay. And then after 2 months again, here you go again. So it's like, for us women, when do you realize it? For me, I think I would like, when these things are happening, because as a human being, you don't know where to run to. Sometimes it's like, ask God for discernment so you can be able to figure it out yourself, because not even a friend can help you to get out when you're in that particular moment. It's only yourself. So you have to gather yourself together and then tell yourself, I need to go, whether good or not, because no money, nothing else will make you happy if you're not happy.
You need to go where? There are women.
Leave.
Yeah, but there's some women who don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah. Who said?
Yes.
There are.
Yeah. Like Irene said, this is what's happening.
Friends can destroy you if you don't know. Friends can destroy you.
That's the problem. You know what? If you're in the US, there's a government help.
There is. That's what we don't have.
If you are in the US, call up.
What about Zambia?
Some numbers out there. There's a government help. They will help you. If you are in Zambia, and if when you go to your family, they'll send you back. You know what you should do? Start gathering money. And then as a woman, my mother and my grandmother used to tell me, always have some change, always have some job, always work, have some money, gather some money, find your own apartment with your little kids and start living, because you cannot stay because it's a picture club. No, I'm not saying this because other people are married. Yes, there are some people who are married. It's nice. It's perfect. We see it and we know it. That's great.
There's no perfect marriage.
But they always make
even buy things for themselves and say my husband bought for me.
That's where we come in, because we are here.
We keep it real.
We understand. We recognize it's abuse.
Yes.
Zambia, they don't have anywhere to go. How do we, ladies, not just as Panopansaka, everybody that's here, Munumchalo, How do we come in and help these women? How do we support them? How do we empower them?
I'll go on that. I think this is when it comes to have a support system.
Right.
I have learned hard way in my own world. I think first one, you trust God, and then have a good support system. You know, where you have a friend who tells you, okay, ni mwandi different demo, ni nchule fiachira mwe fondes tamo, na fiachula, ba okundo kwe face to give. Have those friends who tells you, what do you think? What's your decision? I'm gonna be on your side, whatever decision that you make. Have those kind of friends.
Right.
Because you don't want to have a friend who's going to tell me, oh, just share it. But some of those friends, they are still sticking in their own marriage. But you want a friend who can be real, like where we're talking here, like, no, Shiva, if you follow Amo, that's very sad. But you know what? How much do you have? I'm going to be here no matter what. No matter your decision, I'm going to be here. If you want to stay with your husband, it's terrible, but I'm going to be here, whatever decision. That way it eases you out and then you think right. I think that's my take.
And there sometimes you have friends that are actually going through abuse, but they won't tell you they're going through what.
That's true.
So what they do when they come to you, they'll make your husband look like a terrible man. Meanwhile, she's getting beatings every day.
Be careful of those ones.
Yeah. So my thing is, it's a personal journey. It's your own story. So if it's your own story, you have to create it as such.
That's right.
If you start listening to other people telling you things, they'll never tell you things that amount to your happiness and your freedom and your peace of mind. So like I said, if you have children in the marriage or relationship, those should be your anchor. They should be the reason why you should say, you know what? I don't want my kids to go through, because you can't be lying to your kids, lelo. Now, kwateri insole afimba na chipona mshawa. Mailo, mami nali umfwa tatawale mkalipla dao tuwale imba manyimbo.
It's happy tears.
Like that. Yeah, you have to take ownership to your life and say, you know what? Even if I don't have children, I should love myself enough to say, enough is enough.
Is enough.
Right.
It's true. And speaking of support systems, right? Not everybody is blessed enough to have a trusted friend.
Yeah,
that's true.
If you don't, we have social services out there that you can call. It's just a Google away. Google social services in your area. Also, the local churches are very helpful in some of these things. Talk to someone at church and see how they can help you.
I think every community should have abachukulile,
Ladies, okay, let's not get carried away.
No.
We have our guest, that we need to bring to the show. This is a very juicy topic. I think we need to revisit it again.
Yeah.
So on that note, I just want to go ahead and invite our guest, who is Mr. or rather President Frederick Kazembe. He's the president of the Association of Zambians in the DFW. He is also the president of ZANUS, which is Zambian Associations Network in the United States. This is a young man with a vision and a passion for the community. He is a personal friend of mine as well as a colleague. So ladies, please welcome to the show, Mr. President Fred Kazembe. Hello, President Kazembe. So great to have you tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing, ladies?
We're doing
good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm just currently recovering from COVID. I was down with COVID over the last few days. So today's the first day out of isolation, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you.
Welcome.
Thank God you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. COVID is real.
Yeah.
It is real.
And you fully vaccinated, right?
I am fully vaccinated. I haven't got my booster shot yet. I will be taking that at some point. I just need to schedule it. But fully vaccinated.
Okay.
I believe the term now is up to date with vaccines. we, we don't know where. So yeah, you could say you're up to date currently with your COVID vaccines. And you know what? I just want to commend you for the bravery, for being open with us to share your health condition regarding going through COVID. I think it's important for people in our community to hear this from leaders like yourself
Absolutely.
about this pandemic, because it's real, and I feel like so many of our people are not taking it seriously.
Right.
Absolutely.
To dive in on that, I don't know if you are experiencing this in your states. I went to lunch today, and they did not allow anyone to go in without the vaccination card.
Yeah.
Wow,
Is it happening? Yeah. I
no,
was
not
actually very happy about it. Some people were mad. They're like, I'm hungry. I want to eat. Why should I bring a card? I don't carry it around. Well, we don't allow anyone who doesn't have the vaccination card, so we won't let you in.
no, not in
It
Texas.
is
You can
what it
even
is.
walk in without a mask.
Well, mask and the card.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy you're feeling much better, Mr.
Thank you.
President Kazembe.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right,
Mr.
President Kazembe, welcome to INSAKA. We are very happy to have you on our show. We
Absolutely.
we are just learning this whole thing together, so we might make mistakes. Please don't judge us. We're just
Sure. Sure.
human, but we might ask very unpleasant questions, and if you feel
Sure.
like you don't have to answer, you can dodge the bullet.
Sure.
But otherwise, we would like to know who's Fred Kazembe, not as a president, as
Right.
you. Who is Fred Kazembe?
That's a great question. And again, thanks for having me, ladies. Who's Fred Kazembe? Fred Kazembe is a young man from Zambia, from Kitwe, to be specific, on the Copper Belt. Grew up on the Copper Belt, went to boarding school. After graduating, went to Sydney, Australia, where I graduated in accounting. And then over there, while there, I met my wife, and then we started dating. And from that point on, we decided to relocate to the United States. So we have a young family, two beautiful baby girls, one 3, and the other one just turned about today, to be exact. I believe, no, actually, she is 10 months, about to be 11 months soon. So as Fred Kazembe, I like music. I enjoy Zambian music. I love eating our native food whenever I get a chance. Some shima, some chikanda here and there. I love basketball, and I love our community, engaging with our community to try to understand people better. I think that's one of the biggest struggles all of us have, is despite what we do in general within our profession, wanting to form a belonging to certain people that you can be able to communicate to, even on a personal level, is something we all strive for. So I can say, Fred Kazembe is just any other individual out there who's trying to find a place on this earth.
Okay, thank you.
You know, one thing I missed out on the introduction is that, and any one of you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're the youngest president for the Zambian associations that we've ever had in the United States. So that is quite commendable. So you started off in Australia and decided to relocate to the United States. Why the United States?
That's a good question as well. I used to work for a company called SolarWinds, which is based out in Austin, here in Texas. And my wife at the time was also working for an American company called ThoughtWorks, which is based out here in Dallas. So, while in the process of trying to understand the geography, in America, and also understand the dynamic of maintaining a relationship. She's American, I'm African. Obviously, it's not going to be a perfect world. And you're in a foreign land, both of you being, non-Australians. So the challenge becomes, do you move back to Africa, to live together with this African American woman, or do you relocate to a place where she feels she belongs and she can be able to have her family closer? As most of you know, ladies, sometimes you women know how to draw us men
Oh
out of our
yeah.
comfort zone sometimes, and you know, and, and that eventually happened. So I said Texas could be a better place, being the fact that I had to consider my job, being a number one factor, especially when you're in a relationship. So knowing that Dallas would be a central place for her to commute to work, me not knowing very well how the geography and the commute would be from Dallas to Austin, I figured perhaps it would be a optional or a better option for us to come to Dallas and be able to commute to Austin. But here we are in Dallas, and we love it.
That is amazing. I didn't know she was an American. I thought she was a Zambian. See,
Winnie, the first
I
time
swear.
the first time I met her, I was talking to her in Bemba because for some reason she fits in so well.
She looks so cool. I mean, I've never met her.
She's so down to earth. She's so down to earth. Right? So I was there talking to her in Bemba the whole time, and she didn't even correct me. She just, I think we're in the kitchen or something. It was an event, and she just went along with it, And then I found out later that she is actually African American. I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
That is amazing. So, have you guys been to Zambia with her? Have you taken her back home?
Yes, she's been to Zambia. We traveled back in 2017. Wanted her to meet the rest of my family. She had met my father when he came out to Australia when we had our engagement party over there. And then 2017 was an opportunity for me to introduce her to the extended family, for her to meet my mother and the rest of my siblings. She had a great time. We went out to Livingston, so it was beautiful to be out there in Lusaka and Livingston.
So are you guys gonna be able to do Ichomberanganda? What are we gonna do about that? Because hello.
What is Ichomberanganda? What is in Ichomberanganda?
Chomberanganda.
Let's switch gears a little bit.
Just be real. She's a Zambian woman she's an American woman who's married to African American. So traditionally, she has to be part of that because he is part of it.
We don't know. That's up to them.
Switch gears, my dear. Go ahead and switch.
President Fred KAZEMBE.
I'm happy to answer that question if just to satisfy Miss Winnie. To be honest with you, that is something that we haven't actually talked much about. It's maybe something that we'll look at in the future. For the meantime, we're just sort of pacing through the journey of marriage and being parents. So yeah.
I'll tell you that. I'm not saying that I make it funny, but just for the sake of your children, the girls, they would love to know a little bit of tradition. So like whenever you're gonna have time, take her home so she just learn one or two things. So like when you're growing up, right? When the kids are growing up, especially the girls, they will have some form of where you come from. And that's the reason why we're here, Pansaka. We don't want to lose a generation of us, Zambian. At least we should be mixing it up.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right, Winnie. Actually, as mothers to daughters in Zambia, our tradition is very much rooted in the girl child.
Yeah.
And so there are some things that you are taught as a Zambian girl growing up that are rooted in our tradition that I would love for us to pass on to our children.
Yeah.
So yeah.
See, mwachira kuchinja magia mama.
When did you start leadership? Were you in leadership in Australia, or is it something that you just started here?
When I was in Australia, I wasn't much in leadership outside of work. I was more into engaging with the people in Sydney, trying to befriend people, have Zambian colleagues. I wasn't really involved into the community, as far as bringing people together, looking at benefits that are advantageous for the members of our Zambian community there. It was when I moved here to the United States in 2015. One of the first things I did when we first arrived here is I reached out to the Dallas community Facebook page and introduced myself to the community to say my wife and I had relocated here, and I wanted to, meet Zambians. I wanted to be able to form some form of relationship, just because I was in such a new place and I had no idea, where to begin from in terms of a community. So once I got immersed into the community at the time, I got introduced to Miss Nelly, Madam Nelly, and other members of the community in Dallas, and became part of the association. I think after a year or two, if I'm not mistaken, probably I think two maximum. I became part of the community leadership, and that kind of made me grow even stronger into understanding the dynamics of how to be a leader in the community, and obviously the challenges that I saw that perhaps maybe I had solutions for our community.
That's good.
That is amazing.
The Zambian community in Australia, is it as big as it is here?
It is not. I think the way Australia is made up of, you have New South Wales, which is Sydney. New South Wales is a state, and then um, uh, you have Queensland, you have Melbourne, and the other part, which I can't remember, where most of the Zambians are. That's where you find most of the Zambians that just kind of went blank. But speaking of Sydney, there's not a lot of Zambians compared to, for example, Dallas. We do
Right.
have a lot of Zambians here, huge representation. In Sydney, you could go for 2 months, 3 months, you've not come across a Zambian.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
So now switching gears to you being the president of the association in Dallas,
Mhm.
coming from another leader, president, I
Mhm.
wanted to know what are the challenges that you would say you face in your community. And I'm asking this question because I'm at the end of my tenure.
Mhm.
So we're looking for new faces of ZAC, a new president, and then the whole nine.
Right.
So when they hear you say what challenges you face
Mhm.
in the community, coming from a leader who's young,
Mhm.
because my thought process for Chicago is to get a young person,
Mhm.
and I think because of having a relationship with you, and I believing in you and the things that I've seen you do, I feel like we should have a young president. So
Mhm.
can you tell somebody in Chicago right now, if they're listening and they
Mhm.
wanted to be a president, what are the disadvantages, advantages, and why should they take the position?
So, for anyone out there that's listening, that's in the Chicago area, one advantage, of being a leader in any community, for example, being a president, is you get to form relationships, you get to know people, and people get to know you, but you get to maintain certain healthy relationships that you see could help you as well become a better person.
Mhm.
Now, in addition to that, there are different programs that we see here in the United States that perhaps we do not have back home in Zambia. When you become a president, you understand the challenges that a community faces, such as things like lack of life insurance. So when you begin to identify yourself as a leader that can bring such a benefit to your community here in the United States, you begin to open your mindset and think about providing those type of benefits to even your own parents back home. Perhaps if you're married, to your in-laws, because you now understand the ideal world, and the ideal world of being prepared for a situation, because most of us, we may be in a position of leadership here, right? But perhaps we've never taken that leadership even within our own families, to circle our family together and say, we have batata, we have bamayo. Are we positioned ourselves to be able to get them some form of life insurance or health insurance that helps these people to be able to, one, sustain their lives with their health, or secondly, be in a situation where should anything happen, we're not financially, trying to corner ourselves when we have a loss within our family. So I would say that's a huge advantage for anyone that's willing to grow within that aspect. The disadvantage is that at the end of the day, yes, you will get those midnight phone calls, "Nabamwika toku, nabachitashani," but it's an opportunity for you to rise above that and be there for your community and speak to people to say, look, we have an opportunity to change mindsets, right? So when we talk about life insurance, are we talking about people who are only here documented? You could also look at opportunities for life insurance for people who are undocumented, and that's something that I'll talk about, later on as we continue this conversation. If you explore the idea of insuring your family back home, guess what? Half of those companies in Zambia will be able to document or provide the policy to the people that are based out here that are undocumented. So understanding those type of things will be a huge advantage for any leader out there.
Quick question about life insurance. Because I know you guys in Texas, you guys have life insurance, and I think over here we don't have it. Like you guys have a group life insurance, and
Right.
how can you maybe speak up on the mind of people over New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, over here? How can we change up our mindset? Because I know I'm not saying this is bad, but I'm gonna be just reading pansakapano. If you don't get fiachitek, $50. It's not worth it when you can pay $30 a month.
It's actually
not even $30. It's not even $30. The insurance is about Hartford is about $15 a month.
So how can we change our mindset of just the whole Zambian in diaspora? Listen, if I'm doing it, it's only $30 a month. I'm a $1 every day. Under the bed if you don't go to the bank. Like we say, if you don't have papers, right? How can we change your mindset? Because that's a good idea. Because what I'm seeing is I'm sure I'm part of the community. I love my community. No matter what, I'll go there and pledge whatever that I can. But how can we change the whole mindset as a community to just get a life insurance? Because it's very important. Just not for me. I just want to, if I leave, I know my kids will be fine. At least they'll be stable for the next couple of years. I will leave something for them. And then they'll be able to send me home. If you guys come and help me in the community to take me home, that's great. But I know that I'm set. How can we change that mindset to just the whole community? How can you, since you're a leader and you're going to run again, how can you tell us, how can we change, how can we go into people's mindset? Because to address that one,
Right. I think to your question, it boils down to other leaders. Once other leaders get that buy-in, right, where they buy into the whole mindset of saying, like you just said, you're in New Jersey, you're in New York, you guys don't have a policy. So one, the first things we need to do is to convince the leaders there to say, guys, we need you to come to speed with the current flow of things within our community in the United States. There's a huge request for us to begin signing up people for life insurance policies. Just to add on, actually, just to sidetrack from there, if you are looking for a life insurance policy, Miss Winnie, you can join our Dallas community policy. You can be there in New Jersey. We will sign you up and we can talk about that offline. But back to your question, as far as convincing the mindset, the general population of Zambians here in the United States, it begins with the leaders. If a leader is running for a position in the community, I think we need to be having thorough conversations. What are you bringing to the table?
Right.
What exactly are you bringing to the table? Are you running to throw parties? Are you running to throw events and make a quick dollar? Or are you running to bring benefits that benefit our people? Things like life insurance policies. And secondly, it also comes down to educating our community, because one of the most factors that we have is there's a fear of conversations about death. It's like it changes the energy.
Because
Right. So we have to educate our people and make them feel comfortable to talk about death, to prepare for that situation, and let them know to say, look, at the end of the day, we're going to secure your information. It's also about security, right?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're
They don't
providing
trust.
things correct. There's a lack of trust between the leadership
And
and
and the
the
community.
community.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're going to have to try to work on hard in 2022 and beyond.
That
Can I
is
just add?
amazing.
I want to add something on now that we're talking about life insurance. Could we also add on that, just write a living will of Ganafwa,
Mhm.
cremate me, Mukantume,
Hey.
or this is
Yeah.
what I want. I feel like those decisions are made for people because banyina bali ku umuntu afa family yaba ku Zambia adi upa kuno kwali babakashi. There is that struggle of
Mhm.
mushikeni kuno kwali babana
Mm.
n'abakashi baba kuno banyina nabe natilete n'ekitumbi ku Zambia. Is that something that we can add on to that life insurance where people can say, Ganafo, I want to be cremated. Ganafo, I want to be buried here because my kids are here. But
Mhm.
my body kula. But you get what
Absolutely.
I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be through the life policy. It can be
Yeah.
you having a lawyer. Just
Encourage
create
people to do
encourage
that.
people to be able to do that. You raise a really great point because at the end of the day, when there's a spouse from a different country and a
Yeah.
Zambian, there's always going to be a situation should death occur
Yeah.
where the family feels that they can override the spouse's
The spouse.
decision,
Right.
right? But if
Mhm.
there's something that covers, the statement to say, Fred wanted this and this and that, my wife can turn around, even if it sounds, you know, uh, out of this world to the rest of my family, they'll understand to say that was what he requested when he was
Right.
alive. So,
Nga nawe folks bakwamba nokwamba nga nawe Fred alitumpa efora andila tukamshike kwa America. I mean, but at the end of the day, it just makes sense. Like we
absolutely.
need to do that. Like if I don't know what happens with the future,
Mhm.
but if I die, would I want to go home? No, because I have my daughter. My daughter, they're gonna grow. They're Americans,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
but I have my mom and my sisters. Of course, I would want to go home, but I'm like, so if I die, what am I going to do? And it's something that I always think about it, but I'd rather be here so that my kids and my great grandkids and the future generation, they can be able to go to the graveyard and say, this is where my grandmother lived.
Absolutely.
This is home.
Absolutely.
For me, Winnie, on the opposite side of that spectrum, ine mukanshike kukabwi.
I
Ukawe-
am going to, for example, yeah, and the video
And,
she feel in
and I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why. The reason why is because for me, umtata wangu wa bashiko kokuni.
Yay!
The rest of me should go and join, where I come from.
Mtoto.
And that's also a way of having my children and my future generation
To be going home.
the
That's a good
reason
idea.
to go back
Actually, that's a
home
good
and
idea.
have something to look at.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. So that's my wish. Nalanda pansa kapanonga na from country Zambia.
How
And
can
have
you
enough life
change your mind?
have
You
enough
know,
life insurance to make sure that my body gets there. So you all make sure that it's done.
No, we're gonna be able to
We
do that.
got you.
Fred, do you have a funeral home that you guys use in Dallas, like a specific one, or
We
you just?
I wouldn't say we have a specific one in a sense that we've signed up some form of contract with. It is something that we sort of wanted to look at some point, but that becomes very targeted, right?
Yeah.
To
Right.
me, it becomes very targeted, especially when you're working with Africans and our community in general, especially for us here. And I'll speak about our Dallas community. There was a point throughout 2020 or 2021, we had so many funerals at one period within a period of say 6 to 8 months. So when you form relationships with companies like that, we're Africans, and people will begin to talk. So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we try to do is to just provide options for the family if we have those options,
Okay.
or we let the family figure that part out themselves. And if they
Mhm.
need any assistance, then we do, because we try not to walk away so far from our culture, and
Right.
at the same time we also want to adapt to the systems here.
Yeah. Okay, the reason why I'm asking is that we have something here when we didn't sign up anything, but
Mhm.
it's a specific funeral home that we use because they give us a lot of incentives.
Mhm.
And like sometimes when we have somebody who has died in our community and there's no money, so they have to stay in that funeral home for
Mm,
some time until we get. So they understand.
I
We
see.
have to go to them and say, look, you know our situation. Can you hold on for another week or another 2 weeks? They don't charge us because that's where we go all the time.
Mhm.
But we refuse to sign a contract because it
Mhm.
makes it so obvious that
Right.
when you die, this is where you're gonna go.
No nature.
You
But
know?
my favorite well for sure.
Yeah, but
You know
the
what,
reason why I bring that is
about death? Like
we had a
honestly, we've
town,
been on
I
this.
think we need to
Yeah.
change the subject.
we had a
Can we
town,
get
we
away
had
from
a
death
town
a
hall
little bit? I
meeting.
still have questions for President
Okay, go
Kazembe.
ahead, go ahead. I just
Go
want to
ahead.
finish this. This said, so we had a town hall meeting, and the lady from the funeral home, um, they said they normally help with the wheels. They have like a generic wheel. It's not a wheel, but
Wow.
it's a generic one that just says, like you can get it from them, and then you can have it in your home. All you
Notarized.
have to do is write your name, your blood type, things like that. It's not
Right.
a will, but it helps when you die. They can easily go to that piece of document and see,
Mhm.
oh, this is where Irene is, and this is where she was before, and stuff like that. If you don't want to write a will. But guess
Absolutely.
what? When she talked about that, I think Vali Saranama to once because nobody even made a comment. I was like, the lady is talking, you guys.
And you be the
Okay.
point of
Change the
contact?
subject. Subject change.
Would you,
Okay.
are you the point of contact for that, Irene?
Uh, every president that comes in, we have, like for now, we do have the same insurance that Dallas has.
Hmm.
We have it as well in
Okay.
Chicago. Yeah,
All right.
but
Enough about
we're,
death.
we're trying to, we're just trying to add some more flowers to the insurance.
I have a
Okay,
question
go
for
ahead.
President Kazembe. So you're the current president right now and you're running again.
Correct.
What are the challenges that you faced before, and what is it that you're going to do different now from what you did for the people to vote for you again?
I think one of the challenges that I initially faced during the first term, or throughout this first term, was, having the opportunity, or
Mhm.
lack of opportunity of really engaging with the community. When I got elected with the executive team, we were right in the middle of COVID.
Right.
So that was a huge challenge that we could not overcome. It put us in a situation or in a position where no matter what we tried to do with the community, we would always have to factor in COVID. And
Right.
that is something that we're still going through at this particular time, having to be able to figure out ways on how we can engage with people, whether they have a funeral or they need some level of support for us to just visit them. We have elderly women in our community. Sometimes you want just to, they need that support, they need that
Yeah,
visitation, whether it's just, on a regular weekend or on a weekday. We can't really do that. We can make certain phone calls here and there, but sometimes that physical interaction goes a long way. One of the other challenges was also convincing more people to sign up for the policy, as I mentioned. We were unable to really get the buy-in from the community, despite we had at least more than, I would say, right in the range of the 40 plus people. But we knew and we know that our community is more than 40 people, more than 200 people, and we can possibly convince more Zambians to feel comfortable to trust us with their information and for them to be
yeah,
covered. And then, as far as the new mindset that I'm thinking of and that I'm hoping we could try to bridge and overcome, should I be reelected, is to convince now the undocumented, for lack of better words, to become covered by policy. So we're going to explore some options in Zambia as far as policies that are going to cover those people that are here but are not eligible to be covered through some of these corporations that are based out here in Zambia. So it's about finding now information in Zambia that's going to help our community. Thirdly, we also want to help our relationship to grow with our current administration, with the new dawn. I think it's a huge opportunity for us, one, to understand some of their new policies and how they are advantageous for our communities. Case in point, back in the previous administration, to be considered an investor, you had to spend a lot of money, whereas in the current new administration, the four of you ladies here plus Mr. Chiwa putting $10,000 together, making $50,000, can take $50,000 to Zambia and be considered as investors with the same tax advantages that somebody who's bringing $100,000 or $200,000 is bringing. So us really understanding some of the policies and providing those policies to the community, information about land buying, houses buying, there's a lot for us to learn through this this new government, and provide those advantages, that information to our community.
Well, that's a good one.
You must be a good president. I'm excited for you and for people of Texas, because I think you have a new fresh mind, like they say, now new. So we ask so I think in the community we need young leaders, like overall, because you guys coming up with new ideas, and then this inspires because we are pushing away the older people who've been there, who've been doing for a long time. I just feel like at this point people who are younger, like every generation is different. Maybe your generation if your generation is coming up with good ideas, and I think people of Texas, they should be able to vote for you so you can be a president again.
Thank you.
So really, here's the exciting part about this, right? So I am going to be Fred's running mate. I'm running.
Absolutely.
I'm running for vice president.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So you guys can be like 1-2.
Yes.
All right, I'm coming. I'm moving it. Can you find me an apartment there? I'm moving.
I'll find you a house, darling. Start packing.
You've been an amazing team together. And I know last year you guys did the event in Dallas where you were trying to build the community and stuff. How far are you with that? What lessons did you learn? And what is the next step?
Yeah, so as far as the business conference we had last year in August in Las Vegas, it was a huge success. It gave us an opportunity, one, to really understand some of the benefits for the community that we should bring. Earlier on in the conversation here, you ladies talked about things that happen within households and maintaining households and the advantages of perhaps staying within a marriage and all these other things. We want to try to bring some of those cultural beliefs and cultural ways of living in Zambia within the United States, to figure out how our elderly can continue to be there for the younger generation, our kids that are coming up here. That is part of one of the reasons that we have in the idea of creating a community center. One, not only to have things like our elderly teach our young men and women, but also, items like financial literacy, providing lawyers who are able to communicate to members of our community the advantage of transitioning into perhaps a better status at an early stage, understanding your perhaps maintaining your social security, making sure that at the end of the day, when you do become in a position of documented, that you maintain your social status so that you do not get into situations that haunt you 10, 15 years later down the track. So we do have a lot of programs of why we're actually looking at trying to have a community center, but it's also a representation. How do we as Zambians come here to the United States, establish ourselves within one of the states? Perhaps Texas is one that we're going to begin with, but the goal is not only to have a community center in Dallas, but also perhaps to consider other states that have a huge majority of Zambians, like Atlanta, New York is one of them. But again, it's also about trying to bring more Zambians together. As far as your your question in terms of the next stage, we are going to be having a continuation of that event this year, which is going to be in Dallas. We are still working through the process in terms of identifying the location specifically within Dallas, and then we're also going to be reaching out to yourselves, ladies, and other organizations in the United States to be part of this whole planning and for us to be in a position to successfully get a community center.
Absolutely. That's a great thing to do.
Look at everything.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I want to highlight about our re-election and standing to serve the community, and really that's what it is. It's about community service.
Right.
There is no pay in this job. As a matter of fact, we spend most of our own money. But at the same time, it's for the love of the community. That's why we do what we do. But what we want to do with our positions is we want to leave a legacy. We don't want it to be the same old, oh, body my president, via. We need to leave continuity. We need to leave systems in place that somebody else can be president after us or vice president or whatever position, and find processes in place that they can latch onto and keep the vision going. Hence, community development centers.
That's good. Yeah.
President Fred.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for you. What do you think about conflict resolution in every community?
Wow. That's a good question. And I will speak personally from experience in terms of conflict resolution. Conflict can come from your household.
Yeah.
And conflict can come from, the inner circle that you have within your community. How you resolve that is really up to how, one, you were raised as an individual personally, because most of us grew up in households where there was a strong statement as charity begins at home.
Right.
So we're taught on how to communicate, how to resolve certain situations. For example, if you're having a conflict with your spouse, your husband or your wife, certain people will say, well, I'll go speak to mom and tell mom that my wife and I or my husband and I are having, a fight or whatever the case might be. Whereas someone will say, well, I'll go speak to my best friend. Personally, I'll rather either one, speak to God, pray about it, or two, speak to a counselor. Because at the end of the day, if I involve a counselor, the counselor is going to be a mutual person who has no benefit to myself or my wife. And they're a neutral person. The minute you involve your parents or your friends, you identify yourself as, I'm the good person, that's the bad person.
The bad person.
So no matter how things turn out, one, if it's your parents, regardless of your parents knowing that maybe you were in the wrong, should things get further, you will still be your parents' child.
That's right.
And you're tarnishing the relationship of your spouse with your parents. So whether you resolve those things or not, at some point, you've now created an image in your parents about your spouse. So what's important sometimes is, learning to keep things in household. Charity begins at home. Keep it in house. Talk about it. And if you can't figure it out, then pray about it. If you can't figure it out, then speak to a professional that perhaps may understand things without having to be in a position where he takes advantage of the situation.
May I say, and that's a great point, President Fred, just to kind of piggyback on that, for those who are outside of the United States listening to this, and you're like, what is a professional counselor? Some concepts are not as available to some people. They may not afford it. It's unthinkable. Traditionally, for example, in Zambia, conflict in homes between a man and his wife have always been resolved by bringing two families together. So the parents on both sides, or whoever the guardians were for the wife and for the husband, would come together. And the reason for having the two families come together is so that you can take out the element of partiality. Right? You don't want, obviously, like you stated, your parents are going to take your side. You're their son,
Right.
But sometimes when you have both parties in there, you find that it takes away that portion of it as much as possible. That's always, it's been one of the ways that conflict has been resolved for ages in most African homes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If you
but
bring Washibukombe now and Abukombe.
Absolutely.
yes, absolutely. Bashibukombe and Abukombe, the people that were involved in training you and preparing you for marriage would be the ones that are called in to resolve the conflict. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing I would like to ask Mr. President as well, because as Nelly said, people bringing up like the council and all that, but over here among ourselves in the community as a president, if somebody come by and said, but I still love my husband, and we come to you, what advice would you give us?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I truly like to isolate myself or not identify myself as a counselor, because at the end of the day, despite being a president for the community, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have all the answers, especially about marriage, right? So to me, I always look at things in two ways. We're having our kids here, and since we're here at INSAKA, and I really, first and foremost, like I mentioned earlier,
You can
thank
go
you for
straight,
having
you
me.
can just go it. Come quiet.
You know, we're having children here. We're having children in the United States. Now, we may be identifying ourselves, I mean, we are identifying ourselves, and we should identify ourselves as Zambians. But let's not forget that we are probably the first generations of Zambians that are here having kids, and our kids, we identify them as Zambians. But, let's be realistic. As much as we would like to say they are Zambians, they are American. We say, oh, Akata, excuse my language, but they are that. They are Akata. That's the
That's
reality.
true.
They
Yeah.
are. We can try to distance ourselves from that image, but the reality is that they are. So when we talk about things that perhaps are going to prepare our kids in a position of understanding how to maintain, their relationships, are we positioning themselves or them to be in a position of handling conflicts like the way we do in Zambia, or like the way things are done here? Remember, they are kids that are from here. It's like, when you think about investing in Zambia, most of us want to build in Zambia, which is great. I love my country. We should always consider building in Zambia, but let's also invest here, because guess what? Those kids are not going to pick up and say,
I'm going to go to Zambia.
I'm going to Zambia. You have to think about here and what
Very
works
right.
here, what works for those kids. So if a 21-year-old young lady calls me today and says, I recently got married in Dallas, I'm going through these challenges, well, there are some options. Truly, yes. Bashibukombe, talk to them. And secondly, see a counselor, because at the end of the day, when I involve myself in, then it changes the whole dynamic.
That is fair.
That's true. Speaking of, I just wanted to add on what you said. When you said there are Americans, I was having a conversation with my daughter, and I told her, "Why do you behave like you're not African?" She was like, "Mommy, I'm African American. I am not African. This is what I know. I grew up here. This is my culture, and this is my tradition." So I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, Kosenkane.
Yeah.
No, this was amazing. I think we had a good conversation with you, Mr. President, and we hope you and Nelly, you guys become a president and vice president. And we're looking forward to have more conversation with you. But this was very nice and very helpful for a lot of us, and just good to know, especially about life insurance. That's really, really, really good, because I think we all need that.
Right.
So for that, I think we're going to come to an end. And we're going to say goodbye to Mr. Fred. Ladies, you want to say goodbye?
Absolutely.
Right.
Well,
Thank you so much.
having-
Thank you so much, President Fred. And I wish you all the best. And if I was in Dallas, I was one of the Dallas people, I will endorse 100 votes for you. because they wouldn't even know who is this person giving this man 100 votes. And then your vice is Nelly. You know what?
Amazing.
You got it. You guys got to do this.
Thank you.
Ngamwafirwa ni navarekunda. Nalanda ni pansaka pana.
Well, I would like to wish you guys the best. I think you're an amazing team. But before I say that, I know you're the president of the Dallas community and you're also the president of ZANUS.
Right.
How do you balance that? And if you do go through, well, you are going to win. Are there any conflicts between what you do in the Dallas community and the ZANUS itself?
Well, that's a great question, and you know, in my team here in Dallas, I remember when I was elected to be president for ZANUS. When I mentioned it to them that I was elected, I was asked that question to say, you know, what's the borderline? You know, would there be any conflicts? And at the time, I didn't really understand because I was just introduced into this role, and I was also trying to build relationships with other leaders, and at the same time put up a plan that was going to be in effect, you know, throughout that period of time. So to answer your question, there's always a fine line at some point. It's always about trying to go back to the drawing board and figuring out these are the goals that I have for this year or for this period of time, and these are the people I'm engaging. One of the most important things that to always to remember is to go back to your team, and your
Right.
first team is your local team.
Right.
So if they are informed about what you're doing, how you're going about it, and getting their input at the end of the day, even if it somehow ends up crossing, they're still involved in those conversations and they feel they're part of the whole process. So you know, it's always a borderline.
Well, that's good. Glad you can balance those two. So I wish you guys the best, and I endorse President Freddie Kazembe and Nelly Matatila Batramel for Vice President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
INSAKA,
Thank you,
we
Jessica.
support you as INSAKA.
Thank you so much. So, President Fred Kazembe, in closing, could you please just one last thing? Can you let, for those people that have only ever seen you perhaps online or on social media or heard your voice on radio or something, what is it that, you know, someone out there doesn't know about you? Like they know you because you're a public figure, so to speak, but what is it that somebody would want to know about you that you would like to share? One little tidbit about yourself that we don't know.
Well, I think, you know, one is just that I'm approachable. Sometimes I'm, you know, perceived as somebody who's very quiet, and I can be quiet, or maybe somebody who maybe is not approachable. One thing I would like to let everybody is I'm approachable, and you could ask me questions or message me or email me, or when you meet me in person, just walk up to me and we can have a conversation. I think that's the most important thing.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you. Well,
Thank
it's been great. It's been great having you here. Conversation is always very insightful with you. And ladies, let's say bye-bye to President Fred Kazembe.
thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much. Bye.
Take
Have a
care.
nice
Bye.
Bye.